Actress Natalie Wood was found dead today.
Her body was found floating here.
Officials said she apparently drowned accidentally.
But nothing further on the circumstances.
For over 4 decades, one of Hollywood's most haunting mysteries has remained unsolved. What really happened to Natalie Wood on that cold November night in 1981? As new witnesses emerged, stories shifted, and suspicions grew. One name remained at the center of it all: Robert Wagner. But what exactly did he say? And what did he leave out? From chilling cries heard across dark waters to years of silence that spoke volumes, the pieces of this puzzle may finally be shifting. Did a quiet comment confirm long-whispered rumors? Or did it raise even more questions? The answers may be closer than ever, or just out of reach. What did Robert Wagner finally reveal? And why now? One of the most alarming aspects of Natalie Wood's tragic death in 1981 is the significant delay in reporting her missing. After an evening of heavy drinking and a tense atmosphere aboard the yacht Splendor, anchored off California's Catalina Island, Natalie reportedly vanished sometime around 11 p.m. Multiple witness accounts, including from the yacht's captain Dennis Davern, state that an argument had broken out between Wood and her husband, Robert Wagner, shortly before she disappeared. Despite this, Wagner did not immediately initiate a search or notify authorities. Instead, hours passed before any official help was requested. The U.S. Coast Guard wasn't contacted until approximately 3:30 a.m., more than 4 hours after Natalie was last seen. Even more concerning, Roger Smith, the captain of the rescue boat that eventually recovered Wood's body, stated that he wasn't alerted until around 5:11 a.m., nearly 6 hours after her disappearance. These delays were especially troubling considering the severe weather conditions at night, including rough waters and heavy winds, which would have made any accidental fall into the water immediately dangerous. The delayed response contradicted standard protocol for maritime emergencies, where time is critical for rescue efforts. Captain Dennis Davern later stated before the public that Wagner clearly instructed him not to turn on the boat's searchlights and to call for help. He said Wagner told him, "Don't do anything. Let's not turn on the searchlight." This delay, in conjunction with Wagner's decision to move the yacht to a more secluded harbor earlier that same day, fueled speculation further. According to Davern, Wagner was more interested in managing appearances than in finding his wife. Such revelations would be critical when the case was reinvestigated after several decades, since they indicated possible negligence or something worse. That was the crux of the delay in seeking help in the fueling of long-standing suspicion about Robert Wagner's involvement. Subsequently, investigators admitted that their chances of ascertaining the actual course of events on that particular night would have been considerably enhanced if they had been called much earlier. It is also noted that in 2018, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department tagged Wagner as a person of interest due to inconsistencies in his own story and his refusal to cooperate with investigators. Prolonged silence on Natalie's disappearance is held as one of the most damaging aspects of circumstantial evidence that remains in a mystery that, as of now, has never been fully resolved. But the silence on that yacht didn't end there. Someone aboard had more to say. Captain Dennis Davern, who was present aboard the Splendor the night Natalie Wood died, has long maintained that her death was not simply a tragic accident. Over the years, his testimony has evolved into one of the most critical and controversial elements of the case. Initially, Davern supported Robert Wagner's version of events, stating that Natalie must have slipped and fallen while trying to secure a dinghy. However, in the early 2000s, he began to change his story, revealing that he had been pressured to remain silent and that Wagner may have been directly involved in the events leading to Natalie's death. In multiple interviews and a co-authored book titled Goodbye Natalie, Goodbye Splendor, Davern alleged that Wagner and Wood had a heated argument in the yacht's cabin shortly before she disappeared. He claimed that Wagner flew into a jealous rage over Natalie's closeness with her co-star Christopher Walken, who was also aboard that night. According to Davern, he heard furniture being thrown and the argument escalating, followed by sudden silence. Shortly afterward, Wagner allegedly came to him and said, "Natalie's missing," but instructed him not to turn on the yacht's searchlights or call for immediate help. More importantly, Davern stated in a 2011 Today interview that he thought Wagner was responsible for what happened to Natalie and that he then lied to the police in the initial investigation in 1981, stating that Wagner coached him on what to say. When the investigation was reopened by the Los Angeles County Sheriff in 2011, Davern became the central figure in that case, as authorities stated that his updated testimony was viewed as credible. He insisted that had emergency services been called in time, Natalie's life would have been saved. While Wagner has still not chosen to speak publicly about the matter, Davern's steadfast allegations have kept both public and official scrutiny on Wagner's part in the tragedy. Davern has, in interviews and affidavits, expressed deep regret for failing to act more that night. The case of his testimony from silent bystander to whistleblower is indicative of the increased complexity and disturbing reality of what happened on the Splendor. One of the most chilling elements of the Natalie Wood case comes from independent witnesses Marilyn Wayne and John Payne, who were moored nearby on their boat the night of November 28, 1981. In the quiet, foggy hours around midnight, Marilyn reported being startled awake by the desperate sound of a woman's voice crying out, "Help me! Someone please help me! I'm drowning." According to her sworn statements, the cries continued for approximately 15 minutes. Despite the urgency of the voice, the sounds eventually faded without any apparent rescue effort taking place. John Payne, who was also aboard, corroborated Marilyn's account. Together, they recalled hearing not just the woman's cries, but also a man's voice responding from a distance, saying in a calm and seemingly dismissive tone, "Okay, honey." That phrase has haunted the investigation for decades, raising deeply unsettling questions about whether someone on the Splendor heard Natalie and failed to act, or worse, chose not to. Marilyn emphasized that the woman's voice was unmistakably distressed and called out repeatedly, indicating she had not fallen silently into the water, as some early reports had suggested. Supposedly, the Wayne Payne testimony makes an already impressive case even more compelling for the fact that, soon after Natalie had died, both attempted to report what they had heard. Marilyn claimed that she sent a letter to law enforcement and later received anonymous threats or warnings telling her to keep mum. Then, in later interviews, she said her previous attempts to talk about the issue were ignored or downplayed during the original investigation, and there was no attention again until decades later, when the case was reopened. This also adds more mystique and suspicion to an already complicated case, as an old testimony came back into the limelight. These cries are conflicting to Natalie, as no simple accident could explain her demise. She was well known for her great dread of dark water, which obviously could not encourage her to leave the yacht without anyone else. Numerous credible witnesses, along with their accounts claiming that a woman in distress was heard, a man listened passively, and fed wide speculation that a crucial opportunity would have been missed to save her life. These testimonies now stand strong among the most circumstantial evidence in existence, suggesting that Natalie Wood's last moments were anything but accidental. Natalie Wood's intense fear of dark water is one of the most significant factors that undermines the theory of accidental drowning. From childhood, Natalie had a deep phobia of open water, which was rooted in a terrifying prediction from a fortune teller who told her mother that Natalie would die in dark water. This fear became deeply ingrained in her psyche and shaped how she approached water throughout her life. In multiple interviews and personal conversations, Natalie expressed unease with swimming in open or deep water, particularly at night. Her sister, Lana Wood, reiterated this fear in her 2021 book Little Sister, stating flatly that Natalie would never, ever have left the yacht alone, especially at night in stormy conditions. The night of November 28, 1981, was cold, windy, and marked by rough seas around Catalina Island. That evening, Natalie, her husband Robert Wagner, actor Christopher Walken, and yacht captain Dennis Davern had been drinking heavily at a local restaurant before returning to the yacht Splendor, which was moored in a remote and less protected area called Two Harbors. Notably, the dinghy that was later found beached had not been heard starting or moving that night by other nearby boaters. Wagner claimed Natalie may have tried to secure it because it was making noise, but this theory clashes with her lifelong fear of water and the weather that night. It seems implausible that someone so terrified of the ocean would climb into or even near a dinghy in complete darkness, under the influence of alcohol and medication, without alerting anyone. The attire Natalie wore when her body was discovered puts even more doubt into the theory of accidental drowning. She wore a flannel nightgown, down coat, and socks, not the type of clothing that would be worn to go out on a wet, unsteady deck, much less to get into a dinghy. This information indicates she did not plan to leave the cabin or gear up for any sort of activity on deck. Instead, her clothing suggests that she was probably in bed or ready for bed when something unusual happened. Her documented fear of water, as well as these conditions and situations, render the idea that she jumped off the yacht voluntarily extremely unlikely. In addition, several of her friends and crew members over the years verified that Natalie never used to walk on yachts unaccompanied, particularly at night. She always liked to remain in the cabin for safety when the yacht had to be anchored overnight. Even during the day, she stayed away from activities involving proximity to the edge of a vessel. This was not a casual apprehension. It was an incapacitating phobia. All of this corroborates the belief that Natalie's movement into the water that evening wasn't the product of a deliberate choice to jump off the boat or make any changes herself. Rather, the situation overwhelmingly indicates that her movement into the water involved elements outside of an innocent mistake or personal decision. The coroner's report on Natalie Wood's death revealed troubling details that fueled suspicion of foul play rather than an innocent fall overboard. Her blood alcohol content was measured at 0.14%, a level indicating significant intoxication. In addition to alcohol, she had consumed motion sickness medication, Dramamine, and a painkiller, both of which can increase drowsiness and impair motor coordination, especially when combined with alcohol. While this could suggest she was simply impaired and fell accidentally, the condition of her body told a more complicated story. The autopsy documented several bruises on Natalie's body, including bruising on her arms, legs, and particularly on the left side of her face. That phrase has haunted the investigation for decades, raising deeply unsettling questions about whether someone on the Splendor heard Natalie and failed to act, or worse, chose not to. Marilyn emphasized that the woman's voice was unmistakably distressed and called out repeatedly, indicating she had not fallen silently into the water, as some early reports had suggested. Supposedly, the Wayne Payne testimony makes an already impressive case even more compelling for the fact that, soon after Natalie had died,